Someone breaks the law, I'll be the first one to call up ICE and say, get them out of here. But there are other people who commit crimes or are known to be criminals before they arrived here. When those are identified, I'll be the first one to help get rid of them. I don't want them here. I don't want anybody terrorizing my citizens. So that's the difference.
So New York Governor Kathy Hochul had some very interesting, dare I say, surprising comments today about whether or not she would cooperate with Trump when it came to deporting illegal immigrants. And we'll show you the full comments in context because on one hand, she says she'll call ICE herself when it comes to deporting illegals, but then she also said some other vague comments in the contrary. Honestly, we'll have to wait and see, but I will point out it's interesting to see that the New York Democrat politicians seem to be at least not as bad as, say, the California Democrats when it comes to this question of illegal immigration. But before we get into that, I want to cover this really quickly because it's basically on the same note and I just came across it. Apparently today, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, who we've been covering a lot, we've been talking a lot about this issue, has said that the New York City Mayor Eric Adams has apparently reached out to him and he wants to meet and assist with Trump's deportation plans. Isn't that interesting, right? We went from sanctuary city now to this. Take a listen.
The Democratic mayor in New York, Eric Adams, a former cop, is ready to work with you.
I hope so, because I've just been notified he wants to sit down and meet with me. I'm willing to meet with him. I'm willing to meet with anybody to help make their community safer. Because again, prioritization out of the gate is public safety threats. Work with us on that. It makes your community safer. It keeps my officers safe. It keeps the community safe. Let's work together and get this done.
When's that meeting happen?
I haven't responded yet, but I'll respond this week.
Okay, we'll be in touch with you and him.
Isn't that so interesting? Now, people will point out rightly that what's going on here? Why has Eric Adams been saying all of this? Because recently we covered him on The View basically saying that it's bad to call Trump Hitler and you should be civil with him. We're all fellow Americans. Well, ultimately, Eric Adams is a guy who is begging for a pardon after, let's point out here, the Biden DOJ brought charges against him after he criticized Biden for his immigration policy. So the whole thing is very strange and ironic there. But this has always been my take the entire time, is that I am perfectly happy to pardon Eric Adams in exchange for his full cooperation and no sanctuary city status when it comes to deportations and Trump's immigration policy. And look, you could say, oh, but we still don't like Eric Adams. I don't like him either. But the point ultimately is this. You have leverage over him to a certain extent. You're not going to get a better mayor, obviously, in New York City, such a deep blue place. And ultimately, it's like pardons. You could say, oh, that's inappropriate. No, pardons have always been political. Look at what they just did to Hunter Biden. This should be a no-brainer. I think that's honestly very smart politics. If you can find a way to ensure New York will not be a sanctuary city, then I say go for it. Eric Adams, ironically at this point, is probably your best shot at doing that. But with that said, let's now transition to New York State, because apparently, guys, Governor Kathy Hochul has, according to Drew Hernandez, attempting to talk tough, claiming to be the first one to call ICE on criminal illegal aliens after years of illegal aliens invading her state. But she also claims that those who she defines as legal will all get jobs by the hundreds of thousands. You may hear that as a somewhat contradictory statement. We'll show you what she said. It is kind of vague. She sort of dodges certain questions from reporters, but take a listen and decide for yourself what you think of this comment.
But I'll tell you this. Those who come here legally, we want to get them jobs. I have 460,000 open jobs in the state of New York. I want them to get the proper work permits. I want them to keep their temporary protective status, if that's what they have. I want to make sure that they're part of contributing to society while they're here. That's separate from people who are criminals. Someone breaks the law, I'll be the first one to call up ICE and say, get them out of here. So there is a difference in categories of individuals. And so I just had a meeting this morning with my team that's been studying all the scenarios that could play out over the next few months and what we need to do to prepare. We'll be announcing more about that, and also making sure that our final requests to the Biden administration are secure. And so that's something else. Again, I'll do a report on what we've achieved in the next couple of weeks.
So there's a lot to break down there, right? Because on the surface, it sounds like she says, look, I'll be the first one to call up ICE about criminal illegals, to which you're saying, oh, that sounds great, right? At the same time, she's a little squishy about what she defines to be a legal immigrant. And the reason I point that out is because also embedded in that comment, she brought up the temporary protective status, which is not really a legal immigrant. That is essentially, right, you came here illegally, but the government is giving you temporary amnesty because they view you to be a refugee or something along those lines. So, you know, for instance, the Haitian migrants in Springfield have quote unquote temporary protective status. And of course, the Democrats have been arguing, well, that makes them legal immigrants. And it's like, well, it's kind of semantic, but ultimately, no, right? That's not what we are talking about. At the same time, it is also worth noting that this type of rhetoric is significantly less deranged than most Democrat governors we've seen so far, right? Look at Gavin Newsom. You know, Gavin Newsom is out there saying that he's going to call a special legislative session and use taxpayer dollars in California to shelter illegal immigrants. Kathy Hochul in New York doesn't sound like she's going in that direction. And what is the motive? What is the intention here? Maybe we'll get a little more into that later in this video. But first, here's the rest of what she had to say.
Just to be clear, are you supportive or not supportive of deporting undocumented immigrants whose only crime is either crossing the border or overstaying?
If they're here with legal papers, like they came and they're seeking asylum, like the 224,000 people who came to New York, they're here legally in search of asylum. And that process will play out. But there are other people who commit crimes or are known to be criminals before they arrived here. When those are identified, I'll be the first one to help get rid of them. I don't want them here. I don't want anybody terrorizing my citizens. So that's the difference.
Right. So again, the devil there is kind of in the details because she's also defending the people who quote unquote have legal papers, aka they are abusing the asylum system. However, notice again, it's a very vague answer, obviously. She sort of dodges answering it directly, but she does not talk along the lines that she's going to make New York into a sanctuary state, whatever it is. I don't know, right? I don't know exactly what to think of that. Again, I'm just going to point out, it seems like the Democrats in New York are a little more open, you could say, overall to cooperation than a state like California. I mean, let's not forget, this is what the California Democrat politicians are saying. It's insane. It's ridiculous.
There doesn't have to be a conflict unless that's what Trump wants.
The governor has called a special session that will convene this week to set aside money to battle the Trump administration. Will some of that money also be set aside to protect migrants and undocumented immigrants in California as they seek either legal advice or continued legal financial backing?
As it relates to the special session, that's a special session to focus on litigation, preparation. As it relates to the reality, it's not a theoretical exercise. We know what happened the last time Donald Trump was president. He vandalized our progress. He vandalized our programs. He broke the law.
Yeah. So again, what's the difference? Why are Eric Adams and Kathy Hochul giving a different response than people like Gavin Newsom and Alex Padilla? Well, I think ultimately what they're noticing is their own citizens are incredibly fed up. Not to say that people in California or Colorado or Illinois or these other deep blue states are not fed up, but there's something I don't know about the New York energy that you've seen the past 4 years where New Yorkers are like really exceptionally pissed off about this. And maybe the Democrats in New York are smart enough to recognize this is not a winning political issue for us. And even if it does not flip the New York governorship or the California governorship red the next time around, I mean, you could see House seats lost because of this, local seats, people really are pissed off about this. So ultimately, like that, I would say is my message to these deep blue Democrat politicians. It's like, look, we don't get along. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and try to, let's go have a real civil debate of ideas. Cause it's like, no, I mean, there's a fundamental difference, right? I oppose illegal immigration. You love illegal immigration. Where's the common ground there? But what I will say is this, right? Keep in mind that it is damaging to your political prospects because what you will ultimately find out, and as the New York politicians are currently finding out, is even in a blue state like New York, a state that went for Kamala Harris, there's a lot of people out there that even if they're registered Democrats, even if they did not vote for Trump, also think this immigration issue is a problem. Because as it turns out, polls show this, by the way, nobody in this country is a fan of illegal immigration. whether they're Democrats or Republicans. You are spending so much time appeasing this very small mob of woke activists, and sooner or later, if you keep doing that, if you keep alienating normal people, including people who vote for you, then, you may learn your lesson at the ballot box, is all I'm going to say. So to California, to New York, to all these states, ultimately, I'm not here to lecture you about right or wrong because we totally disagree on that, but be smart. I don't know. I'm just saying, right? Be smart politically and understand that, what you have been supporting for so long, you'll find out actually, and you did find out in 2024, is a lot less popular, even with your own voters, than you think. And keep that in mind before you, use California taxpayer dollars, the outlandish, the income tax in California is as high as 13%. It's ridiculous. The state income tax, not to help Californians, not to fix the roads that are a complete disaster, but rather to shelter and defend illegal immigrants who didn't even pay into the system, by the way, I should add. Just saying, okay? But with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Do you think that you're going to see maybe some cooperation from New York, even a decent amount? Eric Adams, what do you think of my pardon idea? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.